fast here, but you guys are working at different speeds. So you might have to do some cleanup, and that's okay. You can keep cleaning up and pulling little parts and pieces and kind of just cleaning them up. But we started off here looking at the organs in the thoracic cavity. The trachea, the esophagus, the heart, the lungs, and the diaphragm. Now we're going to go inferior to the diaphragm. We're going to look at these abdominal organs. And what we're going to notice first, and some of you have more of this than others on your cats, this is what's called the omentum. And what this is a big fatty apron that covers these guts, okay? Up here we saw the bony cage, right? The ribs, the sternum. Down here there's no bony cage. So to help get blood out to these organs and to protect them and cushion them, we're going to see this omentum. And as I hold it up, you'll see there's lots of strips of fat in there, but there's also vessels in there. Now, we don't need it. So I'm going to take it up and I'm going to take it off. So you can just cut this off. When you cut it off, be careful because there's other stuff around it. So we're just going to kind of be real careful with it until you figure out where you're at here.
For humans, if they get in a car accident or something, do they cut that off or do they try to repair that?
They try, well, it might get ripped or something. They try and preserve that because you need that because it's going to send blood out to your organs. However, in some humans, particularly in the super obese, when you see someone that's got that big lap that kind of hangs down over their lap, you know, that's an overhang of that omentum. So they can do what's called a paniculectomy and cut part of it off, which used to be called a tummy tuck. Now everybody has a tummy tuck.
I was just asking because we had someone that was in an accident and you could see straight through, but they had mesh covering sacked organs because it was so far.
And sometimes they'll do mesh to hold everything in place, and that'll prevent any kind of herniation in the future. All right, so we left off with our diaphragm, right? I took that omentum off. I'm going to peel back the diaphragm, and what we're going to see first is this big organ here. This is huge. This is the liver. Cats have a huge liver. Ours is pretty big. Ours is about 3 pounds, but it's not as big as the cat's. Many functions, hundreds of functions, but one of them is detoxing things that we ingest. So that's why animals will have big old livers, because they eat all kinds of crap. So this is the liver, and you'll notice there's several lobes of the liver. It's all liver, it's just different lobes. As I kind of pull and peel there, tucked down in mine, and yours might be obvious, but mine's kind of tucked down in between those lobes. I've got this little pouch here, and it's green. This is the gallbladder, okay? There's the gallbladder in there. So what happens is the liver makes bile, and then it gets sent to the gallbladder, and it's a storage tank for that bile. And what bile does is it emulsifies fats or breaks down fats. So when we eat a fatty meal, the gallbladder will send that bile to the small intestine to help break down those fats. Now, you can live without your gallbladder. They can remove it, in which case the liver's still making bile. It's just not being stored in big concentrated amounts. So you might not be able to eat big fatty meals anymore because you can't digest them as well as you used to. So here's our liver. Tucked in between the lobes is the gallbladder. If I lift the liver up like this, we're going to see this. This is the stomach. Here's the stomach. It's kind of a C-shaped organ. My cat's is big and floppy. And I can feel there's something in there that they've eaten. You can do this if you choose to. You don't have to do this. I'm just going to cut along the greater curvature, and we'll see what's in there. We'll see what this cat ate. Sometimes we find all kinds of fun stuff. This is just schmutz and cat food and stuff, but there's like something in there. I don't know if that's a hairball. Yeah, that's just a big hairball. Gross. Nice. Big hairball. And other, you know, yucky, gross stuff. So that was its last undigested meal. There's the stomach. Peel that back, and what you're going to see is this organ. This organ here, I've still got some omentum attached to it, so I'm going to cut this omentum the rest of the way off. This so you can see. This organ, it looks, to me, when I look at it, it looks like a tongue. You see what I'm holding? Kind of looks like a tongue. That's the spleen. And it's always tucked way back there into the stomach. So when you pull the stomach up, you'll be able to find the spleen right here. When we pull the spleen back, we're gonna see this. This is the pancreas. And this is a little difficult to find because, again, there's more omentum here. The pancreas kind of looks like chewed up bubble gum. It's all this gray tissue right here. So if you can't find it, I'll help you find it. All right, so we found our liver, our gallbladder was here, our stomach, spleen, pancreas. Now we're gonna move into the intestines. That's what I'm holding in my hand here, big wads of gut. And I think that a lot of times we think, okay, so if something happens and we get cut, our guts are just gonna fall out onto the street like a big chain of hot dogs. They're not, they're all held together. So look as I hold them up, look at all that webbing in between. That's what's called mesentery. See that fan-shaped stuff? It's actually kind of pretty. That's how blood gets to our small intestine. There's vessels there. That's all the mesentery. So this whole thing is the small intestine that I'm holding in my hand. And then kind of framing the small intestine, we're gonna see our large intestine, which is here. And my cat is just so full of grunge. I'm gonna wash his guts after I'm done. Here's the large intestine. It wraps around the small intestine. Now I'm gonna show you these parts and pieces just so you understand them. You don't need to know the parts and pieces. So here's our stomach. What happens is we eat, food goes down the esophagus, it goes down into the stomach, a bunch of stuff gets added to it, it gets ground up, digestive juices get added to it, and it becomes that soupy mess, which is called chyme. Then it goes into the small intestine. The first part of the small intestine is called the duodenum, the middle section of the small intestine is called the jejunum, and then the end of the small intestine is called the ileum, and the ileum is going to lead into the large intestine. So this is where absorption of our nutrients is taking place, in the small intestine. All the vitamins, minerals, water gets sucked out of your food, and then what's left is waste product. That's going to move into your large intestine, and the large intestine is like a drying chamber. It's going to suck any additional water out. It's not doing any digestion or any absorption of nutrients because that's already done. So here's the large intestine. The first part of it, the very first part coming off that ileum is what's called the cecum. We go up, that's the ascending colon. We go across, that's the transverse colon. We go down, that's the descending colon. Then it makes this kind of S-shaped jag here, which is called the sigmoid colon. Then down the rectum, out the anus, okay? So go back to your cats, lift the diaphragm,